long and prosper. All right, very good. Do you have any idea what we're talking about, Maya? Do you have any clue what we're talking about?
No!
Oh my God, nerd foul.
Wrong one.
Star Trek, you're real close.
Real close. All right, so tonight's lecture is very, very exciting. Actually, I'm going to point this more towards me now that I'm actually seeing how terrible it is. Oh, now it broke. Oh, God. Okay, so tonight's lecture is by far my most requested topic. And I've totally avoided doing it because it's not easy. It's really not easy. It's a lot of work, and furthermore, it's really difficult to teach Q players how to do it because it requires that you have a really good sense of positional judgment. What is positional judgment?
What is positional?
What is positional? Let's start with that word.
Territory versus potential, or walls influence.
Yeah, I'm going to put it even a more broad scope. Basically knowing what's dead, what's alive, what's weak, what's not. Okay? And like if you can evaluate all those things, and you can do that reasonably well, okay, then we can talk about counting. If you can't do these things well, counting gets really difficult, period.
Right.
Because if you just think this group's alive, it's totally not. Your efforts at counting are basically wasted. Right? So it requires these very basic skills in Go to be in place. This is why it's very difficult, and it's why strong players and even professional players screw it up quite often. I played a game with Lee Hodgin this summer at the American Go Congress. You guys might know her as Haley. It's a very well-known YouTube channel. So we played a couple games live in front of an audience. Korean Pro, yes. And she continuously miscounted the game. She's professional. And of course, she's doing this live with live audience members asking her questions and things. But she was still like off basically the whole game by some X number of points. And for a while, actually, my count of the game was actually more accurate than hers when we reviewed it later. But I'm not saying I'm good at counting. I'm just saying I was lucky and I didn't have to answer audience questions during the whole experiment. So first of all, we need to understand what's alive, what's dead, what's weak. Those are just sort of like basic things we need to know. The second thing that we need to know is just what's a move worth. And the problem is we can't really know that. Even though it's something we kind of need to know, we can't really know that. On this board, I believe it's black's move. I think I set it up correctly. I kept screwing it up. But I'm going to go all the way back to just picture this one stone being in the corner. What is this corner worth? Like, what is this one move worth? And I'll tell you there's actually a couple different theories, and I'll try to explain them to you. But what do you guys think this is worth?
Like just in points?
Just like having one move in the corner is worth.
10 points?
About 10 points?
Double coming.
Double coming? Double coming is actually a very popular answer. And it's actually not, it's a pretty good answer. But from a positional standpoint, there's a famous, basically turned Japanese pro, Cho Chikun. Oh, he has a different answer for what this is worth. And his answer is very simple. This is worth 5 points in his method. And I'm going to teach you first from the standpoint of sort of his method, which is very conservative in counting and is pretty easy to count. And then we'll talk about some more difficult things, okay? But he says this is worth 5 points. Mathematically, yes, double comey is probably a better appropriate response, but...
What's a comey?
What's a comey? Comey, the points that white gets for going second, usually like 6.5 points.
Right.
Yeah, comey. What is this worth? 11? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Cho Chikun says this is worth 10.
10, yeah.
Now, most people don't count like Cho Chikun. And he probably doesn't, this is a book he wrote, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years ago. So he probably doesn't count the same way either anymore. But he says, this is 5, this is 10. We're actually not going to use his definition, but it does get us in the ballpark. If we need to quickly estimate the score of a game, you see a single stone by itself sort of controlling an area, just give yourself 5 points. You see yourself have 2 stones sort of controlling an area, uncontested, 10 points. Okay? Now, where were these stones? These were here, and here, right? Okay. If you sort of start to just count stones as having value, we can start to count, territories, right? We can just actually just count the stones on the board. And some of you guys might go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is 18 points. Is it?
No, probably not.
I have like 15 and 3 approaches.
I'm going to tell you it's a little bit less than 18. Why is a territory like this a little bit less than 18?
Still porous.
This is where?
You could push it a little high. And then,
How do you make this less than 18?
well, the top row,
And
you could play like that on the base on 19, 7, 9 or something like that.
Like here?
Yeah, and then that'll force him to play 2s.
Yeah, then we have to probably play 2 more moves on the inside. So obviously this can be this smaller than 18, okay? But at the same token, white might be able to get this move too, right? So this is like a situation where we don't know who's going to get these points. Maybe white will get this, maybe black will get this. The same is true for this point, right?
Yeah.
If black gets this, then we also lose this point. So if white gets this, we don't lose that point. So we don't know. This is a territory we don't know. So how do we evaluate this? We're going to do it the most simple, stupid way possible. We're just going to take a line and pretend we have a wall here and black has a wall here. Okay, for this type of situation, we're just going to pretend that, basically we have a line here and a line here, and we'll give ourselves about 18 points in round a little bit down. Because chances are if black gets one, white will get the other sort of thing. So it's probably about 17 points on average. But the skill that I really, really, really want you all to have today is no longer counting like this. This is stupid. Don't do this. There's 2 really good, much faster ways to count this territory. Anyone want to guess what they are?
Count diagonally if it's kind of a square.
Yeah, so this was very square, right? So we can go with this diagonal square, right? We can go 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys know your squares?
16.
16. You can see 16 and plus maybe another one. So we'll say again about 17. If it's not so square, I want you to now and forever promise me that you will always count in pairs.
Okay.
So when you look at a board, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18. Okay? If you count by ones, from now to the end of your life, you have failed me on a personal and professional level. Okay? Because this is a skill that takes practice. Okay? It takes practice, which means you have to do it. And if you don't do it this way, you're going to be counting by ones the rest of your life, and counting is going to be a drag, and you're going to hate counting and go. If you can at least count in pairs, and then just double the number, can you guys all do multiplication? Jody, you doing multiplication in school? 5 times 10. Okay, 50, she passed the test, good. All right, you can all do multiplication, right, so we're just going to count the pairs.
That's faster than I can do.
Right? Count the pairs, double it, that's your score. You can give 3 extra pairs to white. Why can you give 3 extra pairs to white?
Kobe.
Komi, right? Good. Okay, so should we try to count white's points right now?
Sure.
All right, so we already said, let's say this is about 9 pairs. It's really closer to 8, but let's say 9, just for fun. How many pairs of points are here? 10. How do we know that?
That goes up to the horseshoe.
Yes, these are little tricks, right, in counting, right? Use these lines. If you have all this territory, you know that's 10 pairs, right, just a little line. If you know you have 3 lines of territory, how many pairs is that? Up to the 10th line. It's not 30 pairs. It's 15 pairs. Right, so don't, and this is the hard part, right? If you start mixing and matching counting pairs with individual points, you've lost at counting. You're never going to get a right score. And this is why I'm making it so important for you guys to all dedicate your lives to counting in pairs from now on. Because if you go back, if you start saying, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 at a time, and you counted these as in pairs, and then you counted these individually, and then you counted these in pairs again, it's not going to add up. You're going to get like imaginary numbers in there or something. Okay, can't do it. So we can already say this is, we have 15 pairs here, right? Let's say 9 pairs here, so we're at 24 pairs. How much is this worth? And how do we determine, what point do we count that as territory?
Well, so on the left is pretty close to definitely territory.
On the left, this is pretty close, that's the easy part, right?
Yeah.
So we can actually go, we already had, right, 15 plus 9, so we're at 24. We can just continue to count, 25, 26, 27, 28. We don't count this one. Why don't we count this one?
Endgame.
Because again, we're just going to imagine, wherever we have a stone, just imagine that line down to the edge of the board, just like this one.
But you're giving white the third line territory on the bottom?
Over here?
Yeah.
I am. Now why am I doing that?
Because it's got the extension on both sides.
All right, I want a ruler. Do we have a ruler? Anything white with a ruler? Yeah. I should have thought
There's a rod back there in the corner.
There's a what?
Is that?
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell from here.
Yeah, I would just extend the line.
Close
Like a
enough?
stick.
Well, because that's the point that black can kind of reduce from.
All right, there's this concept called sector lines. I'm going to draw a line from here to here, from this stone to this stone. You guys see this line?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot count this line as territory. Period. Okay? Anything on this line you cannot count as territory. You can count things inside the line that aren't touching the line as territory during this type of counting. So if we draw a line here, you see how this line kind of touches that? I can't count it. It touches this point, it's like in between these 2 points here. I can't count either one of them as territory. They're too far outside of my influence. Okay? How about this one? Is also, again, anything within basically like 1 or less, like 0.9 of a unit block away from this line, you can't count as territory. Okay, so if we do that, right, we had 28. We have not counted this one, oh no, we did count, no, we haven't counted this point yet, right? We have 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 and a half. And you can get half sometimes, and you'll get used to it. But right now, we rounded this up. Remember how we rounded this up? I made a little mental mark of that. So I'm just going to round this one down. So guess what I'm going to say? 33. Okay, what is this one worth?
10.
5.
Yeah, 30, let's go 34, 35, 36, 37, 38.
Oh, okay. I was going to count by twos. If you're,
Wait, what did I?
are we counting by twos or?
Yeah, did I count my twos? 30,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Yeah. Okay, if we double 38, if we add, first of all, add 3, because we're white. What do we get?
41.
41, double it.
82.
82. Did you know that? Maybe? All right. So right now, we're going to evaluate white as having 82 points on this board. Seems reasonable? Okay. How many points, just eyeballing it, do you think black has? You have to guess without counting. Don't count. Who do you think's winning?
White's winning.
White.
I think white's winning. Okay. You guys all think white's
It
winning?
looks pretty, I don't know, black's got
Black's got about 60.
more than that. Black's got a full.
Who thinks white's winning, raise your hand. Who thinks black's winning, raise your hand. Let it be shown that one person voted for white and a dozen of you voted for black and a few of you abstained. You have to hate the abstainers, you just have to loathe them. Okay, let's talk about black's sector lines. Where does black have solid territory or more or less solid territory? Where does black have sector lines?
The corner.
Corners are solid.
This is pretty solid. Okay?
The upper corner is not
Solid.
far off from being solid.
This is an interesting situation, right? Because it looks like there's a lot of space,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of black stones in the neighborhood too. It's be very difficult for white to invade there, but it's not out of the question. It's a question of how deep. But for counting, again, we're trying to count the score to usually decide if we need to invade, reduce, like what our strategy is, right? So if we're counting from the perspective of white, and white is trying to figure out how deeply he needs to reduce this, how should we count this?
Uninvaded. As though it hasn't been invaded.
As if it hasn't been invaded, right? If we're counting from white's perspective, and this is where like counting from like the black player versus the white player's perspective will get wildly different results. Because white is mostly interested in knowing, do I have to invade this, right? What sort of risk do I have to take on here? And so if we don't want to take on any risk, how do we have to count this?
Black.
From the edge of the wall to the,
Like from here to here.
yeah.
Okay, can it be done? Can we count this?
78.
78 and this by itself? Let's do it together. I think you're actually really close, if not right on the money.
About what I got.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm going to count this stone right now. For now, I'm going to remember I'm going to just make a mental tick, though. Be like, all right, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I'm going to skip this one. Why am I skipping this one?
The other one.
All right, count this one. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. I'm going to say 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. All right, I already counted that. Damn it. This is really hard to do sideways, by the way.
You're doing fine.
49.
Until I messed up right there. Oh, 49 is way too many, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, because we got too close to the line here, too. Okay, well, let's do it the faster way.
Yeah.
Here we go, box time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 36 right there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 36 right there. How many pairs is that? 36 pairs, right. Good. Up until that line, is that where I got? I looked away from the board. And this is getting a very difficult position to
One
hold.
more over, I think.
I think one more over.
Thank you. All right, so 36 pairs up to there. Perfect. 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46, 47, maybe 40, maybe close to 48. So 47 pairs gives us
94.
94, and down here? 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 and a half-ish, so it's like it's another 10 pairs. Yeah, so that's like 114 points. So if white doesn't do anything, this game's over. This is not a close game. So I think it's black's move though, right? So this is really over.
So Black just needs to protect his points and
Yeah, all black needs to do, make sure that this sector line does not get any bigger, and keep black's influence as wide as possible. White will never have the chance to invade so deeply. So at this point, white needs to do something like super risky, right? White needs to come in here and start doing things like this, or maybe this. Maybe white can do this. If white can reduce this part. If black plays very passive, and white can play another sort of aggressive reduction, white can still win this game. But the problem is black isn't going to respond so passively, right? There'll be some sort of gigantic fight for the life and death of the game based on this white group. Okay, who do you think will get to play here in this game?
Black.
Black? Why black?
Because black has that larger area that white's going to have to fight. They do whatever, and usually use it, end up in goat when you're doing those kinds of things.
Okay. I think black will get this end game. Yeah, you say black because black has a larger area, so it's more valuable to black. But is that what you're saying? Am I not?
it's saying that due to white being so far behind.
Oh,
it's
white
gotta be
far
risky.
behind. White
He's
will
gonna-
be too busy. White will be too
Yeah.
busy. I see. Probably. Because if white needs to play a risky move, that gives black basically sente, or should give black sente, right? Whenever your opponent does anything dangerous, you're going to get a free move out of it. That's sort of how you should think about it, right? I need to spend time as the white player to somehow reduce this huge thing. Black will get time out of this. And so even though this is mathematically a 50-50 shot, it's certainly very difficult for white to find time. And that's true for a lot of endgame moves, right? You'll see that the person who wins the middle game, it didn't necessarily win because they just, I don't know, they killed a group or did something humongous. It's just that they came out of the endgame with less unfinished business, right? Because they had a positional advantage, and their opponent needs to do continuously risky things to catch up. At least that's how Go sort of should work. What was that? That was there. Okay, how about over here? We actually gave white too many points. Because over here, this is actually a different situation than over here. This is details, right? The overall position is very good for black. White has to do something risky at this point, and it's black's move. The game is very difficult for white. Let's look at some smaller situations on this board. What's going on over here? How is this different than over here?
Black only has one stone on the, it doesn't have a stone on the third line above it, like it doesn't.
Doesn't have to respond
Yeah.
to white. Well, he'll respond once, but not a second time.
Yeah, again,
Yeah.
so there is this concept that I'm going to refer to as heat, right, on the board. Right, you want to play the hottest part of the board first, and then as that temperature decreases, right, the more moves you play in an area, the temperature goes down, kind of thing. You guys heard this analogy before?
No.
No? Okay.
I like it.
So like right now, right, this is a very hot part of the board. Right, there's a lot of points at stake, and they're not all blacks yet. White can still have time to reduce this on some level. If it isn't a risky invasion, certainly white can play anywhere along this line and be completely safe, assuming there's no other weak white group on the board. Okay, so this is a pretty hot area. This is not a hot area. Why is this not a hot area?
Not a lot of points.
Well, it's already settled, right? It's already been determined. But this area still has a temperature. Maybe think of this area as being like 60 degrees, right? It's not very hot. There's still a lot of moves to be played here, for sure. But it's not very warm, right? Whereas these areas that have weak groups or have a lot of undetermined shapes or a lot of points at stake, those are very hot areas. So as all the hot areas become cooler, as they get more and more moves played, at some point this will become the hottest move on the board, right? Because this temperature won't go down until some other stone gets played here, right? It'll stay at the same temperature, but the rest of the board will continuously get cooler and cooler. So once this does become the most important move on the board, why is this different than this?
White benefits more moving there, doesn't it?
No, again, Go is mathematical. Go, both players benefit the same.
It takes more moves.
Black's move is Sente and White's
But
is
black's move is Sente and white's is not. Right? And Sente is like, Sente is a very human concept, right? Sente has like no mathematical meaning by itself, right? What Sente usually means is that if I play a move, I can play another move there that's worth even more points. That's sort of what math has to say about Sente, but it's all over the map, right? Sente is almost more of a psychological thing. And when you see professional players play a Sente move and their opponent completely disrespect it and go play somewhere else, you go, but that was Sente! But it's just, it doesn't mean anything, right? It's just saying, if you play there, I can play there again and get more. When white plays here, where does black play? And now, whose move is it? Black's. Black's, okay. So when black plays here, white plays here, and white kind of has to fix. So now, whose move is it? So, whenever this becomes the hottest part of the board, black gets a tempo out of it, right? Black gets sort of a free move, no matter who plays there first, which is kind of interesting. And because of that, when we evaluated it this way, like we just sort of made lines here, right? And mathematically that makes sense because, just go down. We can't actually count all this for white. White should actually have one fewer point here. Because even though white could play here and still get all these points, there's a 50-50 chance that black could play there first and force us to play that way for free. And chances are black will find time to do that before white will have time, right, given the state of this board. So again, this is another area of the board that we gave white actually too many points. So even though we counted this, I know this is getting to a level of counting that you guys don't want to think about. You know, straight line counting is usually just easiest, best, right? Draw your lines, and fill this in. You know, just do all this sort of thing. All right, and then you can even just make your sector line law here. Right, and count all that, just count by pairs. That's good enough for Q level, right? The next level, though, is to start thinking about how these shapes actually play out. And there's a lot of these shapes that pro players just have memorized and just know the value of that move. So they have an easier time evaluating at what temperature they should be played at. Really common shape example. Oops, there. You guys know this Sibicky? How big is this move? Or this move?
Isn't it like 15 points or
Yeah.
something?
That's 15 points.
A little bit under, but yeah, almost. I think it's like 13 and 2/3 or something. I don't remember the exact number, but it's above 10.
It's bigger than it looks.
It's above 10. How? Now, okay, this is the scary part. If you guys are counting this game, how do I want you to count this?
Here.
Count black has the top, white has the side, and nobody has the corner.
Yeah, basically, right? You count this, you count this. This is what you should count. Okay, this is gonna give you a much more accurate picture until you get, if you try to count it the real way for right now, you're gonna be wrong. And until you get to a really strong level, this is gonna be probably the most accurate count you can do in this corner. But if you want to be humored for a second, first of all, so if white gets to play this move, we then have to decide if black responds. Right? Because if black doesn't respond, there's another move. So we have like this one that's worth at least a point for white, plus a follow-up that could be worth another 2 to 3 points for white. So take half of that, so it's like 1 plus 1.5. But if black doesn't respond again, we can get another, quarter point, right? They keep going down in fractions. This isn't really supposed to be a topic about a lecture about the endgame, but again, these things compound, right? Endgame compounds into these very tiny things. Whereas if black gets this, black can then get this done for half credit the next time, right? So in this case, black actually got 6 more points, plus maybe 7, 8. So even if you just take like the first level of compounding, right, we're already at like 11 and a fraction points. So you can sort of see how a move like this is really big. But when you're counting, if it's not clear who's going to get it, how should you evaluate it? Don't. Just play this and count
Unless that's
that.
the move you're looking at playing. Unless that's the move you're looking at playing.
Yeah, well, after you've counted the entire board, right? Say, okay, I need this many points. Is there a move bigger than this? No? Okay, this is the move to play. But if the game's not close, right, if you're losing by a lot, this probably isn't going to win the game, right? And if you realize that you're losing by so much that the score is too far apart and this is the biggest move on the board and it doesn't give you enough points to take the lead, it's probably time to resign or do something crazy, Or that's probably crazier. Okay? So, let's review some key concepts. How are you guys going to count from now on?
Pairs.
Pairs. If you count by singletons, what happens to you?
Punishment.
Punishment. I get out the stick. I got my stick here, and a whack across the knuckles. This goes doubly for people on the internet. It's a whack. What's a faster way to count sometimes if the territory is very neat or very large? Boxes, diagonals, right? And again, if you guys are good at squares, you can do that. Even if you're not good at squares, but you're good at multiplication, you can turn a square into a rectangle pretty easily, right? If we go back, let's say we're just counting these 5 lines. Right, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get stuck. But we know we just have to remember 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll say 11 minus 1 kind of thing. So 11 times 5 minus 1. Right, so I mean, this is a good way to count. This is actually really valuable for counting at the end of the game when you're doing scoring. Like after you've like made all the super nice looking territories, after you've moved all the stones around, right? Do you guys count like 1 by 1? Good. But you know, it's doing the diagonal. Right, that's also a really, really good way to count. You'll notice that this method is actually one giant problem that I haven't talked about. It's evaluating the center. I'll give you a shortcut method that is not entirely accurate, but it'll give you a good ballpark. If we want to evaluate the center of a game, and it's a sort of quasi Cho Chikun method. But you look at every stone that your opponent has in the 4th line or higher, and then you subtract that from the number of stones that you have on the 4th line or higher, and then basically give yourself, or take the difference, and whoever has more, give that player like that times 3 or 4 extra points. But it can vary quite a bit, because if I have 10 stones on the middle and my opponent has 0, that would normally be worth like 35 points, just baseline. But it can get a lot bigger than that very quickly if my opponent doesn't reduce it too. So if I have 5 stones facing the middle, my opponent has 5 stones facing the middle, just call the middle a wash, right? You don't have to worry about counting it. But if someone has a lot more stones in the middle, take that, take the difference, give them about 3.5, maybe even 4 points for each more stone they have in the middle than you. And that's your score. Okay, so that's a really quick and dirty. Should we try an example of that? And there's a nice benefit, if you guys learn this little trick, there's a nice benefit to it in that it actually discourages you from playing the middle. Which is a really good thing for Q players to not do. So don't play the middle, because... Alright, so let's give black a stone there, let's give white a stone there. Let's play a little Joseki. You guys know this one? Okay, I guess we'll play a little bit more. Let's stop here. Okay, how many points does white have? Let's count pairs. I have 17.
Count 44.
You count 44 pairs?
Oh, no, 44 total.
44 total. I only have 7. I have 34 total before Comey. I have 17 pairs. Shall we do it together?
So it's probably close to 17.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't count this one, right? Draw the line. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and a half. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and a half. So, or I already had a half, so that makes 17.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I got.
That's right.
Okay, what does black have?
Do we use the Cho Chikun 5?
Yeah, this corner is hard to evaluate right now. Let's pretend that doesn't exist. Let's just count this. What do you guys get for this one? 13 is good. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Nice. And then so, if we say this is about 3 pairs, it's sort of like 17 to 18 before Comey, right? So it's, you know, Black's having a good game. What if we were to count the center influence?
You said it was fourth line?
Well, so there are some tricks though, right? So, is this what line is this stone on?
Third?
What line is this stone on? They're both on the third line, but they're close together, and technically you could also think of this one being on the fifth, and this one's also on the fourth this way. So together, I would count this as one fourth line stone.
You counted it as
I would have counted as one fourth line stone.
You figure that if you're making your sector lines, it would be a fourth line stone.
Yeah, if you made a sector line from it, it would equate to a fourth line stone, as far as sector lines are concerned. And realistically, Black really has about 4 stones facing outward, right? I don't count this one as much because why?
The white right next.
Yeah, there's a close white group. I should have qualified, but this is still probably worth more than these two as far as central influence. Actually, quite a bit more because Black has plays like this, right? So Black can actually build off of that very easily. Where if White wants to build off of the stone, White can, but now it's kind of over concentrated and has defects. And if there's any sort of support here, Black can actually threaten to slice through. So it's a little bit easier for Black to build off of. So in this game, you know, I would feel comfortable saying that Black has probably about another 10 points of potential in the middle. But that's assuming we only give this stone 5 points. If we give it more than 5 points, that would be a little bit overrepresenting its central influence in this example. But there you go. So there's like your very quick and dirty counting. How do you guys feel? Fabulous. You guys want to play some Go?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, now while you're playing Go, I'm going to come around and ask you what the score is at various points in the game. Okay, thanks guys.